In this video, I will be showing you how to shoot a wrist strap release properly. Now let's talk about the type of release. Right here, I have an open jaw release that has a trigger that needs to be reset after every shot. I prefer a release that does not have the spring-loaded jaws. You can see these in most archery shops. The really cheap index finger releases have two jaws that pinch onto the string like that, and the trigger resets after every time you shoot. Those, while still usable with this method, are not the preferred type of release. Additionally, I also like the buckle style of release because you can put the buckle into the same hole every single time to get the most consistent hand position. Ideally, your release will have minimal travel but will have the ability to adjust trigger tension. Now, for this method to work, you want to have enough trigger tension that allows you to set your finger on the trigger without having it go off. You can change your trigger tension. Usually there's a little set screw in there somewhere. Mine is right behind the trigger, and that's a pretty common location for the adjustment screw. Now, another thing that's very important to this method is the length of the wrist strap, or the length of the release. When it's slack on your hand, a good rule of thumb is to have the trigger be level with the bottom of your fingers. Now I will demonstrate how you do this. So, as with any release, when you're learning a new release, it's very important that you learn first on the string before you take it to your bow and develop bad habits. This here is just a simple piece of paracord. So what you'll do, you'll bring it up, you'll anchor, wrap your finger all the way around the trigger, right? And keep your hand relaxed. If your hand's tight, then it will be very inconsistent in going off because you'll either set your finger onto the trigger too hard and let it make it go off, or you'll set your finger too far from the trigger and have to pull really, really hard and have it not go off. So ideally, you want to have your hand nice and relaxed, wrapped around the release with your finger sticking straight out or behind the trigger when you draw so as not to trigger the release. Many of you will not be able to get your finger behind the trigger because the release is so short. So I've always just drawn with my finger all the way out here. So you'll draw, anchor, wrap your finger around the trigger, and then it's a simple pull. I like to imagine holding the bow against the back wall with my index finger and pulling my elbow back. You also want to squeeze your scapula together as you're expanding so that the follow through of your draw hand looks like this. If it goes right over your shoulder and not out, that's ideal, because if it goes out, you'll be pulling the bowstring away from your face and the arrow will go to the left. If you're pulling straight through, the bowstring is stopped by your face, so you can't have any horizontal misses. Now that you've perfected your technique on the string, it is time to go to your bow and actually practice shooting. The first step before you take your new release out to distance, is to blank bail at close range, just focusing on shot execution. So, it's very important not to really aim. In fact, you might even want to do this without your sight. The steps are exactly the same, except now you have to draw your bow. Draw, anchor, loop your finger around the trigger, pull, and you'll get your nice surprise release with your good follow through. If you start doing a trigger punch motion while you're blank bailing or even shooting, you have to go back to the string and learn how to do it properly. Let me demonstrate what you don't want to do. As you can see, that's a pretty dynamic motion that could really influence your shot accuracy. Really focus on your shot execution. Really focus on pulling through the shot and feeling those scapula come together. Wrap, pull, perfect shot. The key to this method is getting a surprise release. Just punching the trigger when you see it get on target is a bad move and will shorten the longevity of your archery career. Trigger punching is an open loop movement, and because it's an open loop movement, you cannot stop it. So it's a committed motion that's causing an explosion within your body, and your mind does not like that. Down the line, it will link pre-ignition movements to this open loop action. However, with a surprise release, your brain can't pre-ignite anything because it doesn't know when anything is going to happen. So now that you've perfected your technique, blank bailing, and using the string, it's now time to shoot at distance, which is what obviously you're going to be doing with your release. So I have my target set up at 20 yards. Let's see, is it actually 20 yards? 20.3. All right, good enough. So if you've drilled your shot process enough, your shot execution that is, you should have a perfect shot even with the added pressure of the target. So, okay, anchor, center the pin, wrap your finger, pull, just pull through the shot and you'll make a perfect shot. Since I have a 3-spot target down there, I'll shoot 3 arrows. Anchor into the corner of your jawbone. Aim. And just pull through the shot. As you can see, I made 3 perfect shots. However, my bow is sighted in for a release that's slightly different. So with this release, I hit a tad low. But you can see the effectiveness of the method that I've just explained to you, and I hope you will get the same results as I have. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful at all or enjoyed it, please consider liking, subscribing with the notification bell on, and sharing with any of your friends who you think this might be helpful for. A video I have planned for the future is the thumb button release and how to execute that properly. First, I'll have to locate one, but when I do, you guys will have a video. I also have a plan to do a video on the most helpful tips and tricks that I've learned from all my coaching.